good day to be Indigenous.
Get up, stand up.
They are going to become more brutal.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake.
Welcome to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hade. Hey, Kadagi, we to all my friends and relatives in four directions. You are listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot. We discuss local, national, Native news and events, and as you know, Chujunk, Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues.
Yes, you are right, Dega. This segment of Native Roots Radio is presented in partnership with Little Moments Count, which is a statewide collaborative focused on helping parents and caregivers learn about the importance of brain development in the first 3 years of life.
Exactly. We're excited to be partnering with Little Moments Count and to host conversations focused on early childhood development, which is a big thing, Haley, for us here as Wendy and I are new grandparents here.
Yeah, we got to care about our next generation. So it's important that we bring guests on monthly with Little Moments Count to talk about how they view the role of early childhood development in creating bright futures and strong communities.
Hey, we have our guest here, Fawn YoungBear Tibbetts, and you're executive director of Minneapolis's first Indigenous urban preschool immersion program. Can you tell us the name of that, and welcome?
Sure. So it's the name of the program is Wicoie Nandagikendan. We do Dakota and Ojibwe full immersion early childhood program, and we're located in South Minneapolis. Currently, our classrooms, we partner with the Four Directions at Family Partnerships. Our classrooms are on Bloomington and Lake Street. And then our administrative offices are over here on Franklin Avenue.
Yeah, wow, that's beautiful. Fawn, can you explain the concept of language immersion to our listeners and how it's implemented at your school, specifically for the Dakota and Ojibwe languages?
Sure. There's a lot of research around immersion, dual immersion language as conducted in acquiring a second language. I think our focus is a little different, right? Our mission is to advance Minnesota's Indigenous languages through intergenerational mentorship and immersion strategies in order to nurture a quality and culturally sensitive early childhood education. So we take it a step farther, I think, than most programs. A lot of, Spanish immersion, we have even a Latin immersion program in Minneapolis. Those really follow kind of the state guidelines, and the curriculum is just taught in immersion. The kids may be speaking English to each other. They might be asking. There's no English allowed in our classrooms. So from 15 months until 5 years old, when they're in the classroom, they're exposed fully to Dakota culture and language and Ojibwe culture and language. So doing dual language, but both full immersion. When children are really little, their brain synapses are open and they're learning to communicate. They're learning to communicate through sign language, through English, and through whatever languages are spoken in the homes. And so it's a really great time. Their brains are at a perfect spot to be learning their own languages in a culturally relevant way to them. And so, we, like I said, do things a little different with our immersion classrooms. For example, they do Healthy Hearts, and that's standard Minnesota curriculum at the early childhood level. But we bring in a deer heart and a bison heart. They investigate those hearts. They cook them. They eat them in the classroom. And so we have a cultural competency, I think, that most immersion programs don't necessarily use in their program. It makes us a little bit different.
Yeah, that's very cool. And I know that's beautiful that the languages needed to be spoke there, like a true immersion school, and those receptors in their brains are working overtime in a good way with the two languages. That's beautiful.
What's really great, when we come to the garden, the Dakota and Ojibwe kids are there, and they're talking to each other, and they're understanding each other, no matter what language they're speaking, and it's really, I almost say they're trilingual, right? So the Ojibwe kids will follow directions from the Dakota teacher. The Dakota students will follow the Ojibwe directions. And I think the people, get confused a little bit. They think, well, will my child learn English? We are not at risk of losing English. We only have one Dakota first speaker in Minnesota left. One of our elders just passed away recently, right? And every time an elder dies, we lose a library. So how do we grow the next generation of first speakers? And I think that's where our program and other programs similar to ours come into play. But, the idea is not just speakers. We're informing life views. We're informing future leaders and how they make the choices that they make. And I think the more culturally grounded that we all are, the better off we're all going to be, especially for this community here in South Minneapolis.
Absolutely. And the risk is that we're going to be losing these languages, and we need to, it's red alert time. And I appreciate what you guys are doing with the Dakota and the Ojibwe. And what else are you guys doing with a culture there? I know you talked about the food and talk a little bit about that.
So we, initially had started as a language nest, and then we opened our first classrooms. So our classrooms have now been open for 16 years. We did get a grant a few years back, and it was to look at food sovereignty. It was, engaging kids in the garden. It was about engaging families in harvesting and food preparation. Part of that was that we wanted to serve breakfast, lunch, and snack to our kids, all traditional foods. We ran into a lot of barriers with the USDA. We talked with all of the food service providers here, Trio, Lutheran Services, Gatherings Cafe. I mean, we went everywhere to see who could provide that. There are a lot of barriers. So we just signed a lease for a commercial kitchen, and we're opening the first traditional food child and adult feeding program.
Wow.
And it's an amazing step. It's a lot of work to be doing that work. But it ensures that we can provide those foods to our kids, right? Wild rice, bison, walleye. And then also we have our food sovereignty program. So there's the food service, but then we also have an outreach specialist that's helping families harvest. We're going to be doing a bison butchering class here soon. We're doing cooking classes. So what we figured out pretty quickly was you could provide traditional foods to families, but they may not have exposure to that food. So, we gave out Dream of Wild House food shares to everybody. Most folks didn't know how to cook greens or how to use a turnip, right? Because they haven't seen these traditional foods in a long time. Most of our families came here during relocation, right? So they've lost the connection to their land base, which is also harvesting methods, which is also cooking. So we've kind of stepped that program back and are going into full-on community education, partnerships, cooking classes, butchering classes, so we're kind of expanding that project as well.
Wow. We're here with Fawn YoungBear Tibbetts, and we're talking about some amazing thing with your school, and I can't wait to hear more about it. And wow, I'm so happy to hear about it, Haley. I have never heard about this.
Yeah, it's always a great thing to have for our kiddos and our next generation. So please stay with us.
We'll be right back. I heard sex trafficking happens a lot in Indian country. What is that?
Here are some of the real reasons why sex trafficking happens in Indian country. Unequal gender roles that were forced on us by colonization. Communities don't have enough resources. Silence around domestic and sexual violence. Lack of attention and justice for missing and murdered Indigenous people. There's a lot of behavior that keeps our communities out of balance. These are just a few true reasons why Native communities are targeted by traffickers. When these acts of violence happen in our communities, it opens us all up for exploitation.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
The Minneapolis Institute of Art is featuring the art and legacy of Jody Falwell, a groundbreaking potter from Cabo Owinga, New Mexico. Over the past 50 years, Falwell has revolutionized Pueblo pottery and native art by weaving in personal, political, and social stories into her pieces. Her exhibition titled Opawa Omung shows the incredible range of her work and the impact she's had on both native and contemporary American art. You can check it out at MIA through January. For more info, visit artsmia.org.
Indigenous communities face severe threats from pollution impacting both the air we breathe and the water we cherish. Pipelines, mines, and waste incinerators near our homes lead to higher rates of asthma, diabetes, and heart disease. In the Twin Cities, Native and Black communities experience over twice the rate of asthma. Let's not forget that water is life. It's something we must protect as a vital resource and way of life. In Minneapolis, our vote helped close the Smith Foundry and bituminous roadways. Let's continue using our vote to fight for climate justice. Make voting a tradition, or MVAT, empowers Native communities by increasing voter turnout and supporting conversations about critical issues like clean air, water, and health. By getting involved, we shape the policies that protect our families and environment. Find your nearest polling location at sos.state.mn.us. Let's make voting a tradition for future generations. That's sos.state.mn.us.
This is Leonard Peltier. I am in Coleman 1 U.S. Penitentiary, and I'm listening to Native Roots Radio.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is supported by Little Moments Count. Nearly 80% of brain growth happens in the first 1,000 days, and small moments of interaction like talking, reading, playing, and singing help create the pathways that build a child's brain during this early stage of life. We're here now with Fawn YoungBear Tibbetts.
Hey, welcome back, Fawn. And we have a lot of questions here, and I just have to applaud your work and your community there. It sounds really, really exciting, and you guys are on the right track. So again, Big Peenigi, thank you for being on. Hey, I have a quick question. Can you discuss how access to healthy foods affects children and working to address it? And you guys are working to address this issue.
Well, you know, when kids are fed properly, their brains work better. We also have in our community some of the highest rates of poverty, but also some of the highest rates of obesity and diabetes. So if we can impact choice at this young of an age, then it's just going to be a lifelong benefit for those kids. So, for example, I was in Palm Springs this week. One of the students came with to NIE, and he's our youngest student, 15 months old. Every day he wanted the blue corn mush that I made for breakfast instead of the chocolate cereal that the older kids were eating. Eventually, this child is going to be an older sibling too, right? Or he's going to be cooking for his family. And he'll have all of that in his wheelhouse, right? So part of it is we did a food assessment of South Minneapolis, and a lot of people did food maps right after the uprising and the closing of the stores. Surprisingly, we live in a food desert. There are more food shelves here than there are grocery stores in our community. Wow. But one interesting thing we also found was that every family has a food influencer. And if you can get the food influencer to try something, the younger kids are more likely to try it. And so engaging like at all the levels with the families of cooking, with providing the healthy foods. It was hard. Kids were coming back and saying, hey, we're still hungry. 85% of our students are lactose intolerant, and their parents didn't know how to get the medical recommendation for no dairy for their child. And so these are kind of some of the obstacles that we're helping families with. We actually have a waiver for the school milk process in with the USDA right now. If they deny it, then we'll sue the USDA over that policy in the state of Minnesota that all Native programs should have access or be allowed to serve a non-dairy diet to their students. And so that's kind of a blanket statement that we're working with an organization out in DC on, so that not just our program, but all programs in the state of Minnesota, right? But Dote is our K-8 charter school. School milk is their largest school based because most kids can't drink it. But they have to provide it to be reimbursed their lunches through the USDA. So we're trying to kind of figure out some of these barriers. And then obviously, highly processed foods aren't good for brain development, right? We're learning about all this red dye number 5 and behavior disorders that come out of that. If kids are eating traditional foods, those are not processed. There are no preservatives. So we don't use gluten in our program. We don't use dairy, and we use no refined sugars. We only use maple syrup and agave nectar in our sweeteners.
That is totally amazing. Fawn, you talked a little bit about food influencers. How about what do you have to do to have the parents buy in? Because I know that's a big portion of influence too. And how does that go on?
So I think a lot of that is opportunities for them to try new foods. So if they know their kids eat it in the program, they're more likely to try it at home. Instead of giving out the food shares like we did last year, we're doing like native HelloFresh boxes. So it's quick, that the meals can be prepared. We'll step it up. There will be a QR code. You can see the chef cook the food. So we're going to be doing a bison taco box. This time we'll make the pico. The next time you're making the pico. Right. And so we're going to level up, and we're scaffolding even for adult learning. Right. And we do that with kids all the time. Say, okay, what is the appropriate age level? Well, what is the appropriate knowledge level for this community? And I've run into some folks, they might not even know how to cook wild rice. And so we're literally starting from scratch. The way I teach my kids about making a salad, right? A good salad should be sour. It should be sweet. It should be crunchy. It should be tart. It should hit all the parts of your taste buds. It shouldn't need ranch dressing on it, right? We should be able to have maple syrup and fire cider and some salt and pepper, and that should be enough. And so giving parents the confidence, and then knowing your kids eat this at school, and you come to field trips, you've seen them eat pozole in the garden. Make pozole at home because they'll eat it. And so I think parents often stay where they're comfortable. We have an apprentice. Her daughter is in the program with us. She asked, could I just come and watch you cook? Like, I only use 5 spices in my house. Can I come and watch you cook so that I can learn some of these techniques? So our kitchen is always open. We're always ready to do classes. We do a lot of ceremonial food production. So if there's, a funeral, we often sponsor that. We've got donations from hunters. I can't legally serve that food in the program, but I can serve it for community feasts. And so I think last year we received a donation of about 400 pounds of ground bison. 90% of that went to powwows, funeral feasts, and shaky tents and naming ceremonies. Some went to Sundance for the end of the fast that those guys did up there. because we get that big donation and then we can't serve it in schools because of USDA regulations again, right? No hunted game. But we can provide that to the community, and I can give that to our families. And I know that's been really appreciative. Right now, ground bison, it's crazy expensive. Roasts are really expensive. Walleye, wild rice is over $20 a pound. Yeah. So if I can provide those for free to our families and to our community members, to our elders, and we work across the board, not just with our program. And we're doing catering now as well. So we're using the catering service to increase our scholarship dollars for students, right?
This is amazing, Fawn. Fawn, can you tell, we like a action here, and can you tell our listeners how we can support what you're doing, and if there's a place to give support to your school, and tell us the name again and the spelling so people can find this. This is amazing. Haley, this to me is really amazing what the work you guys are doing.
Mm-hmm. So we're in March going to be doing a big strategic plan launch that will be virtual so people can attend that. Our organization is Wicoie Nandagikendan, and the website is wicoienandagikendan.org. It's WICOIENANDAGIKENDAN.org. So it's just all one word, wicoienandagikendan.org. We do have a donate button there. Currently, we're the Seward Community Co-op Roundup for October. So if you go to Seward Co-op, you can round up at the end, and that donation comes to our scholarship fund. Also, our kitchen is available. Like I said, any catering events, we try to work within organizations' budgets. So we catered the Minnesota Two-Spirit Powwow for their feast this year. We got really awesome feedback, and we made Indigenous falafels for that. So we're always expanding the menu. We're always testing new things. That's a great way. If you have an event and you'd like us to cater your event, know that all that revenue goes to 100% to scholarship dollars, as well as obviously donating directly on our page. We'll be on Give to the Max as well. And if you're not local, I would say support an immersion program in your community for your language, wherever you are. All of our immersion schools basically are 100% grant and federal funds. Some get state funds, but very few of us. So, enroll your child, sign up for one of our classes, come see me in Cedar Field when we have that bison hanging up out there.
Wow. Great work, Fawn. And I was at the Two-Spirit Powwow, and I did eat your food. Delicious. Thank you so much for being on. This is amazing. We got to get you on again. This was
we could just do a whole piece on the kitchen.
Yeah. Well, Big Peeny Gigi, thank you so much for being on.
Thank you.
Right on. Hey, this is Native Roots Radio, and we'll be right back after this short break. Oh, wow. Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States.
And 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected.
Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf.
Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy.
As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired.
Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl. J&S Bean Factory is a native-owned, community-supported, cozy, artsy coffee shop which offers roasted on-site beans, live music, and baked goods. Relax in the beautiful outside patio. City Pages writes, voted top 10 coffee shops. Tucked into a quiet corner of St. Paul's Highland Park neighborhood, this coffee shop roasts beans on-site from the best coffee-growing countries in the world. Located at 1518 Randolph Avenue, St. Paul. the good stuff.
Every day, our people suffer at the hand of domestic and sexual violence. But you are sacred and deserve to be safe in your own home. Strong Hearts Native Helpline is here to help. Native-centered, empowerment-based, trauma-informed advocates offer safety, sovereignty, and support. Call or text 844-7NATIVE. To chat online, visit www.strongheartshelpline.org. Reach out today.
Fossil fuel camps, like pipeline and oil drilling villages, are increasing violence against our Indigenous sisters. Temporary workers from these camps have led to a surge in sexual assaults. In North Dakota, assaults on women rose by 75% after man camps arrived during the 2000s oil boom. We must hold big oil companies accountable for this violence and demand action. By electing leaders that prioritize the health and safety of our Indigenous communities, we can fight back. Our vote is our voice. It's time to use it to protect our people, stand up for climate justice, and ensure a safe future for our next generations. Make voting a tradition, or MVAT, is about strengthening our Native communities. NVAT is here to boost our voter turnout and spark important conversations about the issues that matter most to us. Find your early voting location at sos.state.mn.us. Let's make voting a tradition so we can fight for the safety of our communities.
The city of Minneapolis is now on Native Roots Radio with Minneapolis AIR. AIR stands for American Indian Relations. Guest host Christine McDonald talks to people about important things affecting the city's Native communities. Minneapolis AIR dives into topics like public safety, public health, elections, and so much more. Tune in to Minneapolis AIR on Native Roots Radio from 5 to 6 p.m. on the second Wednesday of every month, right here on AM 950.
ATNF AM 950, St. Louis Park, Minneapolis, St. Paul. As we age, it's important to invest in our health and to help protect it. Like the flu, COVID-19 is always changing. That's why it's important to stay up to date on your vaccines. By getting the flu and COVID-19 vaccines, you can renew your body's defenses and lower the risk of getting sick. Get your health boost and protect yourself against the flu and COVID. Find vaccines near you at vaccines.gov. Again, that's vaccines.gov. Vaccines.gov. With a look at your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Tonight, clear with a low of 46, then Thursday, sunshine with a high of 71. The music is still the hottest at Crooner's Supper Club in Fridley. Crooner's is located just north of I-694 off Highway 65 and Moore Lake Drive. View their upcoming music schedules and food menus at croonersloungemn.com.
Anine, I'm Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan, and you are listening to Native Roots Radio.
Welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is supported by Strong Hearts Native Helpline. October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and Strong Hearts offers culturally appropriate support and advocacy for Native Americans. You can call or text them for free anytime at 1-844-7NATIVE or chat online at strongheartshelpline.org.
Hey, we have a all Ho-Chunk section here now of the show. And we have our friend Arvina Martin on. And Arvina, welcome to Native Roots Radio. Oh, I can't hear you, Arvina.
I did that twice today. But hello, and thank you for having me.
Right on. You're executive director of Merge Wisconsin, and our friend because we're on civic media, so we're all over Wisconsin, so it's always really great to have you on and talk about the heartbeat of what's happening in Wisconsin. I just have to say this before we get any further and talk about our neighboring state, and I don't know if you saw, I was at a Packers game, and I don't want to talk about it.
I saw.
And Georgia, what the heck? 400,000 early voters in the first day. Was that the number?
I think so, somewhere close to that. I think I heard 400,000, but regardless of the number, it was in fact a record-breaking day for Georgia's early voters. For those of you who hadn't heard, the early voting in person started in Georgia yesterday, and they just had a record number of people show up and cast their ballots on the first day of voting. So, I think this is a really exciting piece of news to hear. It really, I think, shows the excitement that people have for this election, for this campaign, and really understand that there's a lot at stake, and wanted to make sure that they did cast their ballot, including President Jimmy Carter, who was saying that he didn't care about turning 100. He just wanted to live long enough to cast a ballot for Kamala Harris. And he did cast his ballot today.
That is so awesome, being 100 years old. Hey, before we get any further, our previous guest knows you.
Yes.
Say hi, Fawn.
Hi. How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
So, yeah, Arvina and I was the Native vote organizer for Wisconsin during the 2016 election. And then we were in school at Madison together for a little bit there. Yeah, so we kind of go way back, I think maybe 15 years.
I think it might have been from 2012, actually.
Yeah.
So,
it's been a while. We've known each other a lot.
Yeah.
It was great to see you.
You too. And I loved hearing about all of the things that you're doing with your program. And I wish that I lived there so I could have you guys cater an event for me.
So actually, Ho-Chunk reached out at the Native Farm Producers Conference, and your territory goes all the way up to the Mississippi, which includes East Phillips. So they're looking at potentially doing an urban farm here. So I might be working a little more.
Wow, that's really exciting to hear.
Yeah, there's just a lot of really cool stuff happening. But I'm just so glad to see that you're with Emerge and to hear what you guys have in your segment. So I'll just close out my little session and say hi, and we can touch base later.
Yeah.
But let's get out the information that the folks on the show need to hear. All right.
That's so cool.
Right on, Fawn.
Thank you.
So cool. That is so cool. We're in such a small community, and I mean that in a good way. We had a guest on yesterday, Arvina, an actor from New York, and somehow, he had a musical off Broadway that was just unbelievable. So we had to have him on, and the name of his show was Distant Thunder, and that's my Ho-Chunk name, and it was his name too from his tribe, and a friend of my wife's knows the actor really well, and it's just like we're all intertwined all over the place here, even in New York.
Yeah, that's some pretty some interesting coincidences or what have you.
Yeah, I don't believe in coincidences, but I don't know what it means right now. Oh, what?
Same.
So
we have to wait for that lesson.
Yeah. Hey, Arvina, I don't know. I don't really pay attention to polls, and it seems to me that the polls have never had Kamala behind, but they're also, how are they counting these new people signing up to vote? And I mean, I really feel, again, I've said this, and Haley, I don't want to jinx this all, but I said I think things are looking really good.
Yeah, that's one of the things I think that I like to tell people about when they're looking at polls. Always remember that first, number one, polls don't vote, people do, and that the only one that matters is the one that happens on November 5th. But this gives us a snapshot in time of a certain demographic, and we can talk. There's lots of conversations to be had about how polling firms will get their they're the people that they ask to participate in polls, and there's a whole science behind all of it. But you do have to take those things into consideration when you're looking at.
She froze.
Oh no! Can you hear me?
Is it winter?
No, I can hear fine.
Oh,
my bad.
I can hear you fine. It might be your internet. It might be your brother gaming again there.
Probably. No, excuse me.
I totally lost my train of thought, but I think that you should.
Polls are better than you were talking about. Polls are better than, voting is better than polls, I should say.
Yeah, definitely. And that's the only number that truly counts. But take a deep breath when you read polls. I'm trying not to get too excited about things too, because everything is still within the margin of error. But we do have to take things into consideration, like you mentioned, like how are people engaging brand new voters who have just registered into this. Into polls. So you just have to think about the realities of what these polling firms are able to do, and how they get out to certain demographics or to across a broad range of them, whatever they're going for.
Yeah, I don't want to talk more about polls, but I just heard something that was kind of interesting, is that in 2016, the poll had Hillary winning, and so automatically these pollsters don't want to be wrong, so they're already giving Trump an added 3% just because of that. And I just thought, oh my God, numbers. You can do whatever you want with numbers.
Yeah, that's not something I had heard before this. So wow, that's pretty. I mean, scientific sounds.
Well, I believe, Kamala and people like Bernie was in town here. I had to go see Uncle Bernie speak, and they're really paying attention. And I feel like it's really they're paying attention to the right states and the right things, and they're doing what they have to do, and they're also not forgetting the people that support them too. I mean, coming here to Minnesota, which is a blue state, having Bernie come in. That's amazing that the Democrats are paying attention.
Yeah. Again, people are understanding the electorate a little, better every cycle. You learn more things, and are able to make better decisions about where to send your resources. And resources include the candidates, but also surrogates, money, staff, things like that. And I think that you would see not only are the candidates and important surrogates reaching out to states like Wisconsin and Pennsylvania and Arizona is I totally just lost my train of thought. I'm so sorry. But where did I leave off? I'll catch it. Well, I promise.
I think we all have ADHD, all three of us.
Right?
There was a spider I was watching on my computer screen, and I was not listening. No.
Oh, wonderful. But I think that you're seeing the resources from the campaign go to the places that truly need it, and where they're going to be received well. Your governor was just in Oneida last week for Indigenous Peoples Day, and he was there, and our governor, Tony Evers, was wearing a lovely Oneida medallion in the picture as well. So, he was there for Indigenous Peoples Day. I know that he did an incredible job based on the job that he did at the Native American Caucus at the DNC convention. He did great. He's going to be back in Madison on Tuesday with President Obama. I'm pretty excited about that. Yeah, and not to mention the field staff that's been out and deployed to Wisconsin. We have tons of volunteers, labor unions sending out their volunteers to come knock doors here in Wisconsin, because that's how important we are.
It's amazing too. I was at I had Wisdoms reach out to me and to notify me that that he was going to be in was Madison on People's Indigenous Day, or no, he was going to be in Green Bay, and I was in Green Bay Sunday, so I was like a day ahead of them, and I came back to Indigenous Day here in Minnesota. Did you have a good Indigenous Day? We got less than 30 seconds here, but we'll maybe get into that. But
yeah, no, mine was great. I, enjoyed my day off being Indigenous everywhere I went. And I went to UW-Madison had an Indigenous Peoples Day a powwow. So I went to that, and it was a good day to be Indigenous.
Right on. Hey, we're here with Arvina Martin, Executive Director of Emerge Wisconsin, and we're going to be talking a little bit more, maybe talk a little bit about Emerge Wisconsin too, and how important your organization is to all of us here, and we're so always happy to have you on. We'll be right back. This is Native Roots Radio.
Every day, our people suffer at the hand of domestic and sexual violence. But you are sacred and deserve to be safe in your own home. Strong Hearts Native Helpline is here to help. Native-centered, empowerment-based, trauma-informed advocates offer safety, sovereignty, and support. Call or text 844-7NATIVE. To chat online, visit www.strongheartshelpline.org. Reach out today.
For nearly 10 years, Make Voting a Tradition has empowered Native American communities by bringing friends and families together to talk about important issues. NVAT is increasing voter turnout and ensuring Native voices shape the future. This election season, skip the crowds and vote early in Minnesota. Elders and busy voters can vote in person before Election Day. Find your early voting location at sos.state.mn.us. Let's make voting a lasting tradition for generations to come.
Everyone likes a litter-free ride on Metro Transit buses and trains, so pitch in. Take pride in your ride and take your trash off with you when you get off at your stop. You'll find trash bins at every Metro station. Want to help clean up transit stops in your neighborhood? Join the hundreds who volunteer to adopt a stop and keep it picked up. Learn more at metrotransit.org/adopt-a-stop. That's metrotransit.org/adopt-a-stop.
Some people won't give you the real talk on drugs, but it's time we know the facts. Fentanyl is killing people. It's a powerful opioid, often made illegally and commonly mixed with illicit drugs. It can even be pressed into counterfeit pills that resemble prescription medications. Just 2 milligrams, about the size of a few grains of sand, could potentially be lethal. This isn't an ad to scare you, but it is an ad to make you think twice. Get the facts. Go to realdealonfentanyl.com. This message is brought to you by the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Jane Fonda, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
And we're back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and this is Robert Pilot.
This portion of the show is supported by Howling for Wolves, protecting wolves for future generations. How?
I don't know. The simple things make me laugh in life, Arvina. We're back with Arvina Martin, Executive Director of Emerge Wisconsin, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But, a lot going on here in the Twin Cities with Indigenous Peoples Day, and just grateful to be here, and grateful to be Ho-Chunk, and just really grateful that there's so many opportunities now. Like our last guest, Fawn, the things that she's doing there is amazing. And I mean, being a 63-year-old, I don't know if I ever saw this coming.
I think that, I said this, I think last week regarding natives in Hollywood entertainment, but I think that these nonprofits we're in this kind of glorious era of that as well. That is, I think it's just starting, that we are having very, not just traditional and Indigenous kind of worldview based, but also forward thinking and being able to really just get that stereotype that of Native people as being people from the past. I think it just destroys that stereotype because we are of the present and we are certainly of the future. And to see organizations that are doing things for across all fields, whether it's political, whether it's educational, whether it's mental health or community health, it's just, it reminds us that we are resilient, thoughtful people. And we've survived so much. We have all of this kind of collective knowledge that we carry, whether we know it or not, and being able to see that in its place and in the world that we live in now and the world that we're inheriting is just remarkable.
Well, and there's also that point where we're educated now, and that's being able to combat the next genocide towards us, because we are definitely putting the chair to the table and being part of the conversation now like never before. And a lot of that has to do with education.
Absolutely. And education in the broad sense of the term, that is like not just thinking about going to Head Start or elementary school, but being able to participate in activities or that are outside of what you normally get to do. Education means things like doing internships or having experiences early in your career, or anytime in your career. It's just, I think that all of the culmination of all of those experiences are really, really starting to pop up and show their faces in our modern society.
Yeah. It's come to fruition. A lot of things. I think Mankiller talked about the importance of being at the table in the 90s, and here we are. You, a former, what we call here in Minnesota, a city council member, first Native American. That's a huge deal. That's something that should be in our Ho-Chunk history for sure, that just because you did it, others can do it.
Absolutely. And when you are the first at something or one of very few of something, you feel a personal responsibility to make sure that you not only opened a door, but you're holding it open for people to come through. And that is, being available to people that are interested in the kind of things you do, whether they're kids or adults. And remembering to, comport yourself in a way that is, respectful of the position. I know that I on city council wanted to make sure that I was always, I didn't want to mess anything up. First of all, because I don't want to mess things up, period. But, I just felt pressured, if something happened and I somehow became a scandal, that what would that mean for any future Native people that wanted to run for office around here? That it's just part of the game, not the game, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, part of the flow, but it's also part of who you are. So I would be really surprised if you were part of any kind of scandal. But you never know. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I can't think of anything.
No. Some too physical in a roller derby thing or something.
Yeah, maybe that's it.
Well,
but
we got a few minutes here.
Consensual.
We got a few minutes here, and I just got to say before I ask you about Emerge and do a little call to action, how people can find out more about Emerge and what you guys do, is that I do have to say this, is that the Packer Stadium was beautiful.
Isn't it?
Yeah, and it was really easy for me to get on there and get up to the fourth floor and get into the suite with people that redid the stadium, but also help Ho-Chunk with their casinos. It was awesome.
Wonderful. That's super awesome. And And, I saw the pictures on Facebook and was like, oh, Robert, I'm going to tap.
I had a purple shirt underneath my Packer shirt, and people did notice that.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. We're on have our eyes open for that purple and yellow.
Yeah, exactly. So let's talk a little bit about Emerge and how people get involved and what you do there in the last 2 minutes here.
Yeah, so I am the executive director of Emerge Wisconsin, and we are an organization that identifies, recruits, trains Democratic women who want to run for office. We are currently accepting applications. You can go to wi.emergeamerica.org to click on our application link. And please email me, Arvina, ARVINA, at emergewi.org. If you have any questions about running for office, or, even if you don't live in Wisconsin, I'm happy to help, talk you through and get you set up with organizations that can be helpful for what you're looking for.
And it's exciting in this era with our next president going to be a woman and our next governor here in Minnesota going to be a woman. The era is finally changed in a good way, and Emerge will be popping out a lot of new candidates, I'm sure.
I believe it, and I'm really excited about what this potentially all means, and it's just really exciting. But we've got 20 days to go.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to try and help as well as I can. First, we have our own redistricting situation coming up here for
Indeed.
our tribe on Friday. But and I will help people come to the polls and vote in a good way. And also, Wendy and I already voted, and I know Haley did too. So we're open to give out rides to people that need rides to the polls.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm glad you did mention that Friday is also election day for us Ho-Chunk tribal members, because we got to make sure we hit those polls too.
All right. I'll message you what number you should pick. Oh, wow. I won't do it online here. I might get in trouble. Oh, wow. Hey, thank you so much, Arvina. Again, it's always great to talk to you, and it's great to see our community is small and great, where you're friends with Fawn and things like that. She's doing great work. I really appreciate having Fawn on too today. What a show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm always happy to join you guys.
Right on. Hey, we're still here. We are the 7th generation.
And free Leonard Peltier now.